What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Bassam Hannah podcast. Today, I am very lucky to be joined by a guest who I am actually meeting for the first time, Andrew Perrie. I'll let Andrew describe himself, but I'll tell you what I know about him so far. He is a extremely successful real estate agent broker. In addition to the fact that he is a semi-professional motivational speaker / sales coach. But just so I don't steal too much of his introduction, Andrew, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And if you could be so kind as to give yourself an introduction.
Sure, man. I'm the CEO of a real estate team called the Fine Estates team. We're based out of Niagara Falls, Burlington, Oakville, Simcoe, and Muskoka. I also am one of the partners of one of the fastest independent real estate brokerages in Ontario, Revel Realty, and I operate 2 offices for them in Niagara-on-the-Lake and Muskoka, as well as, I play more of a strategic role within the company, is where, we're super growth focused. It's important to elevate the brand. And I feel like I wanted to take that on my shoulders. So it's me who's, grinding the concrete in different markets, making those connections, and just kind of growing the brand all around. So although I am a registered realtor, it's been I have a full team of somewhat, I would say, smarter than I am and probably better at what I do than me on my team, and they help a lot of our clients out now, so I can just kind of focus on the growth. But yeah.
Well, listen, I read a stat yesterday that the average real estate agent in Ontario sells 1.3 deals a year. So,
dude, they just literally, somebody posted that on Instagram yesterday, and showed all the different towns and provinces. People in Saskatchewan are selling an average of 10.
Yeah, I think it's time to make a move.
Oh, yeah, let's go to Saskatchewan, baby.
Our property taxes are lower too.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so to kick things off, and because this is really the first time that I've gotten to know you, which is kind of trippy, because normally when I have a podcast guest, I've met them before. So this is new world for me. I'd love to hear a little bit more about, let's say from high school, university on. How do you get to where you are now?
Wow. So
go deep with me here.
So I came from the music industry. So I was the lead singer of we called it Screamo. So it's kind of like if the listeners and the viewers know Alexis on Fire, A Day to Remember, it was kind of like that. So singing, screaming, pop kind of choruses, but some heaviness to it. So all throughout high school, I legitimately thought I was going to be famous.
Yeah.
I did. I seriously did. And I went to university to become a teacher in North Bay. I left after only 2 months because our band was going on tour, and it just was a really good opportunity. We were in the recording studio, open up for some amazing bands: Cancer Bats, Gob, Grade, Attack in Black, Not By so many really good bands that were, again, just to elevate our experience into new markets. I've always kind of been that way, from music to real estate.
Sounds like it.
It's all about the brand. So, but that was. It was just something that was kind of superficial. So everybody who knows me, they would always say, why don't you play guitar anymore? I mean, I do. I pick up the guitar all the time. But, why don't you, music was such your passion. I'm like, honestly, I don't think I was. I think I was more fueled by the recognition. And, that kind of burning desire to be liked. I think I was more fueled by that because I wasn't making any money. So, and I wasn't really the best musician. So at the end of the day, I just, I kind of narrowed that down. And then so I ended up, I didn't really put the band on hold, but, my parents were like, okay, we can't they gave me 1 more year is what they said. We'll give you 1 more year until you're famous.
How old are you when this is happening?
So this is right during university, so 19, 20. But I was in this band from 14.
Right.
So we had a lot of success.
Okay.
And
when you were 20, not in 1920.
No.
Oh, okay.
I said when I was 19 or 20.
Okay, yeah.
So the band was so important to me, playing on stage. But, I was drinking a lot. I was watching back the performances. The bandmates were pissed. I had 3 beers at the beginning just to get myself loose.
Right.
Beers during, beers after, partying after, not sleeping. It was just a very unhealthy lifestyle. And then, I went to college for sports club management. It was more focused on golf, so I could open hotels, golf courses eventually.
Very cool.
And that was my, my mutual agreement with my folks. Like, okay, just go, you can focus on your music, but you got to get a degree of some kind.
Right.
And now, am I working at a golf course or, growing grass? Well, that was one of my projects, to grow grass. But no, I'm not, right? So I think most of us my age aren't really doing anything that we went.
At 20, you're just like, I was happy to just like show up and.
That's right.
Like, yeah.
But
I didn't know what I wanted yet.
Neither did I.
Yeah.
I thought I did, but I didn't. If I really knew or really felt passionate about what I wanted, I wouldn't have treated it with such, I just didn't appreciate it, is what I'm trying to say. So I actually broke up with the band. I went on a solo career. I had a song on the radio, a Much Music video hit. We were supposed to collaborate with Carl Wolf. We opened up for him at Yonge and Dundas Square. It was really cool because I was like a rock singer on like EDM, rap.
Okay.
Like there's this little kid, Lil Jakes. He's not so little anymore. He's like 6 foot. But he used to speak with a speech impediment, and when he would rap, it would all go away. So he rapped for Drake, and I did a couple of songs with him. It was kind of like my explosion into that market.
Right.
And then I got picked up by a hotel in Dubai. They wanted to fly me out there, 6-month contract, everything paid. At the time, Dubai was really strict.
Right.
So I had to sign. I wasn't going to drink. Wasn't going to bring girls back, all this stuff, right? So I'm like, all right, I'll do it for 6 months. However, I got pulled over and got charged with DUI.
Oh, damn.
All while this is happening.
Life-changing.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. And you know what? I had to forfeit that contract because my court date fell in the middle of the contract, and it was a breach of contract to leave Dubai, go home, even just for a day and fly back.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So...
Wow.
That kiboshed the music career. And then now I'm sitting at 25 years old, like, what am I going to do with my life? You know what I mean?
Where's the golf course I'm going to manage? Yeah,
That's right. I wasn't even that good at fucking golf.
Same, bro.
So
Same.
I didn't have, I was lost. I had no fulfillment, no purpose. I had, just no direction.
Right.
And then I found sales. A good friend of mine, she was always the person looking at me when we were at a party and I was all tweaked or party mode, like activated. And she'd be like, what are you doing? Like, you've got this crazy potential inside of you. Her name's Ashley Holden. I'll give her a shout out. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what you're seeing in me. I don't get it. I always had a high level of confidence, but, by this time, it was kind of run down. So she said, go speak to Scott Holiday, who's still a good friend of mine to this day, at LA Fitness in East Gwillimbury. Mm-hmm. And he said, just get into a sales position and just watch what happens. Fast forward 3 months, I'm the top salesperson. I got offered my own LA Fitness in Niagara Falls. Amazing. So that's how I transitioned into Niagara. And, sales, LA Fitness changed my life.
Wow. And then so you go from LA Fitness to...
Yeah.
How do you make the jump to real estate?
Yeah, so LA Fitness, as amazing as it was, gave me all the foundational skills. I still literally implement some of the daily and overall business structures that LA Fitness taught me into my current business.
Right.
So, but 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, the constant, hey, you could lose your job if you don't perform, like that kind of stuff. I knew I was good. Mm-hmm. So I didn't need the fear.
Right.
I'm like, don't worry, buddy. I'm like, I got this.
I
got you. I got you bonus. Nobody else did this in since the beginning that your club opened. So I just knew that I was doing all this work, 100 calls a day, 10 appointments minimum a day, and 10 to 20 new leads a week, 50 leads a week. Those are our non-negotiables. I was killing it for a $25 commission.
Right.
You know, I think our highest commission I ever made there was like $90, $100, something like that. But I'm like, how does that translate? Like, there's
But
no.
it teaches you skills that you.
Oh, 100%.
You know what? Funny story. I used to do door-to-door water cooler sales for Crystal Springs. And if you know, you know, right?
Yeah.
Like that's like a rough.
Oh yeah.
That's a rough upbringing. Like, but it teaches you. Like, I don't think I made more than $150 commission, and when I made it, I would be like flying so high.
Oh, dude.
But like that. Numbness to rejection and like the perseverance that it teaches you it translates into everything.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I still, and I'll be honest, I still haven't learned to take the personal, hardships of getting rejected. I still haven't learned how to deal with it, but I've just known that once you go in with a certain intention and how to position certain conversations and control the conversation, it limits that effectiveness of, being those doors slammed in your face.
But like also, okay, so a question for you. Do you think sales is nature or nurture?
Oh man, I think it's a little bit of both. Because here's the thing.
That's a weak answer, bro. You can't go a little bit of both.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because, and this is just me being super honest.
That's a salesy answer.
This is me being super honest. If my fucking team is listening, they're going to kill me because obviously, yes, I've done a lot of hard work to get to where I am. I'm not saying that. But I don't have to practice all that much.
Right.
I don't have to sit in my room and look myself in the mirror and go over my scripts. These things come natural to me.
Yeah.
However, from a nurture standpoint, I wouldn't be where I was if I didn't have an amazing passive follow-up game. Mm-hmm. So I've nurtured all of my relationships.
Okay, I see that. And I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually, okay, I take back my comment. That's good. Yeah.
But don't tell the average salesperson that because they need to practice their scripts.
They do. You know what? Even if you're good at sales, like it's a muscle like anything else, right? Like you're, not that it's actually a muscle, but like the day when I'm in sales mode, if I'm selling a project or if I'm doing something, I can get on the phone and I don't have the hesitation. But if it's the first call that I've made in a few months and I was like, ooh, this one was rusty. Yeah. So.
Well, that's why you got to be doing it all the time.
Okay, so you make the transition so you're always into sales. So LA takes you into real estate right away?
Well, yeah, because you know what? I needed essentially something that was going to pay me more per unit. Mm-hmm. It was either cars or it was real estate. So I knew a couple of buddies of mine from back home that got into real estate. Were doing super well, and I just reached out to them. I said, what did you think? Kind of same answer that, Ashley Holden gave me, and they were like, buddy, you've got to get into this.
So in all of the work experience that you had, what's the motivating factor? Is it the sale, or is it the commission? Is it money? Like what motivates you?
It's not the money itself. It's what it brings and what it allows.
Okay.
I'm such a growth-focused person that every single milestone, as big or as small, so that means every hire, every new lead, every fucking phone call. Every phone call, I've talked about this before, it could say unknown, it could say private, it could say scam potential. I'll still answer it with the same intensity, 100%.
Oh,
and if they give me that blank and then it kicks in, I know it's scam and I can just hang up. But it's those little milestones that contribute to the overall growth and the overall dream that I have. And people ask me what it is. It's honestly just to live a life of freedom and the freedom to make choices, take risks, or calculated opportunities that I've invested or entrenched myself in, because the success is not the outcome. The success to me is the journey.
Right. I feel like you're one of those guys that if you get called by a telemarketer, you end up selling them on something. Like they're now a client for you in the real estate business.
Yeah, I've done that. So
ABC, right?
Right,
Always
of course. There's no such thing as a no sales call.
Right.
you're either selling them or they're selling you.
I believe that 100%.
Right?
Even if it's not a sales call at all. Like,
Right.
even talking to your friends.
Yeah.
What do you want to do today? Are we going to do what I want, or are we going to do what you want?
That's right.
Depending on who.
Exactly.
Who
And
wins
a
that
call with the
argument.
prospect is the same. You're either going to sell them or they're not going to buy, so they've just sold you. But no, I've done that before where I was going to call him a little kid. He's not a little kid. He knocked on my door. I forget what he was trying to sell me, paint or window cleaning or something. And I recruited him to the team, to the brokerage. So there's
okay.
opportunity everywhere.
I want to talk. I know you just mentioned growth, so I want to tell the audience some stats here. So,
Yeah.
Andrew, you have 1.5 thousand, like 1,500 subscribers on YouTube.
Yep.
3,800 followers on TikTok with a substantial amount of likes, and almost 35,000 followers on Instagram.
Yes.
All very impressive numbers, like goals for a guy like me. So the question is, what are some of the best marketing strategies you've used and that you can recommend to others?
So the way I started out was I was just super focused on one particular thing. So it could be your market, it could be hockey, it could be wine. Luckily, I live in Niagara-on-the-Lake where it's all wine, and everything that I put out there from the very beginning was geotagging Niagara-on-the-Lake, best places to go in Niagara-on-the-Lake. Hey, look at me, I'm at a winery in Niagara-on-the-Lake. Hey, I'm playing hockey in Niagara-on-the-Lake. It's once you get super focused, because here's the problem, is that I see realtors with, their entire account is random.
Right.
It's their life, which is great. And it's their dog, and then it's real estate, and then it's a car, and then it's fishing. And it's just something that, okay, great. We love the fact that you're sharing all of that. But from the consumer standpoint or another realtor standpoint, because my business is 90% agent-to-agent referrals.
Right.
So if I were to go on your account and saw that inconsistency, I'd say this guy is not as serious as somebody that I would trust with my client.
Okay.
Buyers and sellers are saying that. I don't think maybe this is, because you guys, you've got one chance to really sell your house for the highest price in the fastest time.
Right.
And if you fuck that up, you can lose hundreds of thousands of dollars.
100%.
Right? So
Or have an upside client.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
a client's going to be going through people's Instagrams, Google, Facebook, and they're going to say, I like the guy. I mean, I love dogs.
Yeah.
And I love fishing, but I just don't know if this type of inconsistency is going to work for me.
Right.
May want to have a beer with that guy, which would be great, but to sell my house, no. So again, everything I talk about is about maximizing. Okay. But if you go to my account, that's how I've structured it. I've focused on one thing. It's helping other agents.
Nice.
So that's it.
Let me ask you a tip for me. I know before this we talked about, like, because we didn't know each other, we were creeping each other's social accounts. Do you have a tip for me? Like, I actually could use all the tips that I could get to try to grow a following. And to anybody that's listening, like, you think we have it all figured out because we're the people with the mics, but like that's totally not the case. Like, we're here and we're learning. So
well, we just talked about before we hopped on.
Yeah.
Like my account's going stale, so now I got to switch it up.
Right.
And creating the next idea is can be difficult. But I think for people, getting started. But so, for example, for you, I mean, what's the goal?
I mean, look, I'm transitioning now from. I've had three main careers in my life. I've been a real estate developer, which is what I am right now. Yeah. There was a brief stint where I was a cannabis overlord, which was awesome. Not anymore.
Yeah.
And now, as a complementer, like as a sister to my real estate development world, I'm starting to realize that there is a massive opportunity to pool capital together and to become. Right now, there's professional capital raisers who invest in developers.
Yep.
But there's fees and profits that get absorbed from that process. So I'm like, well, what if the real estate developer was the person that raised the capital themselves? So that's kind of what I'm trying to transition into.
Yep.
The audience is learning this for the first time. So that's actually what I'm trying to get into. So I'm trying to figure out how to go from where I don't normally need to sell to anybody as a real estate developer. I hire real estate agents and brokers to go and sell the pre-sale condos or whatever that we have. Now I'm going to be kind of direct to consumer, but selling them something different, which is selling them the opportunity to invest in some of these projects,
Right.
From the developer level.
So this sounds to me the best, because if I know anything about my personal clients that are into, JVs and development opportunities, investments, most of them don't care about the fluff. They want to know the numbers. So can they be educated? I would use the platform through an educational standpoint where you're showing actual numbers that make sense, but give it some lifestyle to it, like we're doing now, where we can talk about the numbers, but we can,
We're not actually allowed to talk about the numbers.
You're not allowed?
Ontario Securities Commission does not. It frowns upon people advertising broadly prospective returns.
What about past?
Past you can talk about, and you can also say if you're looking to invest, and here's a target return for this type of investment.
Of course.
But then I have to like bring them in, and I have to have one-on-ones. Like they don't want you mass advertising.
I understand, but more of like a passive standpoint, or maybe
that's actually a great point. Like,
or maybe the process, because Nick Regina and our boy Rick Dillon. What they're doing with Matt Campoli and Mason and Tara, what they're doing to bring people to Florida from, Canada to Fort Lauderdale or Miami or whatever. It's a process that most people don't get involved with because they don't understand the process.
Right.
So an A to Z approach. And so maybe that's something. It's like instead of me sitting here, maybe you have an accountant, or maybe you have an attorney, or maybe you have somebody else who's done it many times, and you just talk about the process and have people say, wow, it's not that hard to actually get a part of it,
Right. Actually, that's a great idea, to have a lawyer on the podcast or an accountant explain like the taxes and the benefits. And that's oh, by the way, like shout out to Rick and Nick. Like those are good friends. Rick's actually been on this podcast. He was my first guest.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
He's a very solid dude.
He's amazing, man.
Yeah.
Him and his whole crew.
High energy person I've met in a long time. In most rooms, He
knows how to get shit done.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the tip. Back to you.
Okay, sure.
Biggest professional mistake you've ever made, and what did you learn from it?
I had a problem, and we've dealt with it, and we've moved on. But I think, ego had a really big decision. Ego had a really big play in that decision. So, when we were first opening up the Niagara-on-the-Lake office,
Right.
I was just so stoked to have my own thing, to have a title. I didn't really care about the way it all worked.
Okay.
Until you start seeing money coming out, and you're like, wait a minute. The reputation and the status is great, but I'm not making any money.
Where's my money at?
Where's my money? You know what? But again, you go through these things because these failures, these challenges are what builds good contracts for future opportunities.
Right.
I mean, if I think about, this is why people have, young athletes have agents to create their contracts.
Right.
But I didn't have an agent to create my contracts. I am the agent. I just didn't know what the hell I was doing. So, that was probably the biggest mistake, because I was letting the expenses come. Luckily I have an amazing partner who took a lot of that on himself, but we still weren't making anything. It didn't change that fact. So we had to really come together, work hard, come up with a solution, bring coaching into the equation, bring more culture and events, and now we're starting to get profitable again.
Okay. So this was, I mean, I don't want to dig in too much into the details, but it sounds like you took status over.
Oh, yeah.
Over like.
And I've done that a few times.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I
Hey,
think
give me the title. Okay, great. What does it get you other than that?
I'm guilty of that too, to be
Yeah.
honest. Okay. I want to switch it up into like real estate specific. I know you don't
Yep.
do a lot of selling, but you are very involved in the real estate
Very.
world.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, I know every deal that
Yeah.
gets done.
Okay, so what pre and post sale services do you provide that differentiate you guys from others?
Here's a really good
A little
one.
shameless plug here, yeah.
Right. So
Yeah,
here's
yeah.
a really good one that we actually just implemented for our agent-to-agent referrals.
Okay.
So as soon as we get the introduction, it doesn't even have to be to the client yet. Even if it's just, hey, Andrew, this is Tom from ABC Realty. I heard you're the best in Niagara. I've got a client for you. Boom. Okay, great. I take his contact information. We have our concierge team email him. Thank you for the referral connection. It outlines everything that the process is going to entail. It outlines, here's Gracie, she's our client concierge. Here's Andrea, she's our director of ops. Here's Andrew, your main point of contact. If it's a buyer, here's your buyer agent. This is Crystal, she's got 10 years experience, et cetera, et cetera. After the contact is made, subject line, thank you, referral accepted. And it will say, I just spoke with John and Tom, right? So John now has booked an appointment with us. Here's his address. Here's what we're thinking on the timeline. Again, Gracie, Andrea, me. And then once the conditional deal is same email, firmed up, same email, closed, here's a photo of their closing gift. Here's a thank you, and your commission check should be coming in the mail in 2 to 3 weeks.
Amazing. And that obviously like incentivizes new business, and it like makes the referring agent feel like their client was well taken care of. So
Of course, most agents, they want to be kept updated, but they don't necessarily want to be a part of the whole process.
No.
So, but they just want to know in
and they
confidence.
get paid, right? Like they get
Oh
paid
yeah,
for the referral.
25%. Yep.
Oh, that's cash. Okay, on that note, do you provide rental services, or are you just strictly sales?
Yeah, so we have a leasing division.
A leasing division. Okay, so this is a world that I come from. So as part of being a property owner and a developer, we've owned a lot of units, and we used to run a property management company. So this question is very near and dear to my heart. Do you have an opinion on the current state of the Residential Tenancies Act?
Okay, so for one, full disclosure, I've only ever hired a property manager.
Okay.
So I don't deal with any of it myself, but let me just tell you,
Feel free. I like.
it needs some serious reform, big time. You know, we had two lovely girls rent out our biggest and best unit overlooking the main strip in Muskoka, and they didn't pay from the day I closed on the property to the day that they finally left was about 16 months.
Oh my God.
So no payment. They left, and they left their pets inside the unit. So now, if you abandon animals, the OPP has to come. The whole property was like sealed off. It was this really, really big thing. And
Did you file the forms? Let's go through. Like, did you file the N4s and then L1 and all that stuff with the
Yeah, of course. But we ended up, once they actually left, we just said fuck it. But yeah, of course, our property manager did all the steps necessary.
And you
It
lost
doesn't.
16 months worth of income.
Yeah, which was about $1,800 a month.
So in Florida, where I've also done a fair bit of property management, it's like completely skewed the other way. Like here, Ontario is the most tenant-friendly rental environment ever. Or like, I know there's slumlords and there's people that don't treat their tenants properly, but if you were a tenant and you decided to take advantage of the system, Ontario is the best place to game it. It is not fun. Okay, So you are of the opinion that it needs reform, which was really where I was.
Of course.
It's so shit.
And I'm one of the good guys, man. Like, I just had an opportunity just yesterday to end or extend a 5-year lease for a residential tenant who has support from the town.
Okay.
He's paying $780 in a unit with this amazing balcony overlooking the Muskoka River.
Yeah.
And that unit should be like $2,000. And he smokes in the property. I can't do anything. And I said, yeah, let's extend it. Because what am I going to do? Send this guy, he's like 70 years old, out to the street? No. Like, he's got nobody there. It's not something that I'm willing to do. So.
But that's compassion, and that's a personal decision.
Exactly.
But even if you wanted to.
Yeah. Even like, if I wanted to. Yeah.
I don't think you could.
Well,
so
I could have denied the program, which would have allowed him to stay there, but he couldn't accept money from the town.
Right.
So he would have to come up with the money himself, which he wouldn't be able to, and who knows.
And then you go to court for 5 months.
Well, yeah, could you get into drugs? Would you suicidal at that point? Like, go out onto the street? And like, so I didn't want to be responsible for that.
I mean, it's good that you have compassion and that you have a heart. You could tell that right away from pretty much the moment I met you. Okay, so you've satisfied my resident. At least we're on the same page on residential tendencies. Just as we wrap up, 2 more questions. What's next for you, or like what's the next level for you? You've actually accomplished an incredible amount up to this point in your life. Mm-hmm. What's the next thing? Well,
you know what? I always said I didn't want to be a coach. And I just the typical. Hey, I did sales. I'm getting into coaching now. Right. I just didn't. It wasn't for me. But what I've realized, and our buddy Nick also helped me realize, is that our time's way too valuable. I spend probably 60% of my day answering DMs, getting back to people on email, and it's all from people reaching out to me. Who's your videographer? Who's your lead gen company? Andrew, I've got a question about team contracts. This.
Right.
And now there's a Manek. It's an app where you can buy a minute or 5 minutes or half an hour of your time. So I'm a part of that now. So I just think that and I've got this email list that I wake up every morning 4:30. I create an email fresh, so it's new to our team. And now we have over 100 people on this email list. Mm-hmm. And if you're interested in being on it, it's not a fucking unsubscribe thing. So you're either in or you're not. You don't have to wake up at 5 a.m., but you're in it. Like, I'm not deleting anybody from it. You're on the list now. So now the next question is, how can we turn that into something bigger? Somebody actually approached me who was on the list who says, let's turn this into a book. Mm-hmm. So book, coaching.
Wait, are you talking about like writing like daily, like Andrew notes? Like, Ray Dalio has been doing that for Ray Dalio's like.
Who's that?
Do you know who that is?
No.
Ray Dalio, he runs Bridgewater, which is like the largest hedge fund ever.
Cool.
One of the richest guys in the world.
Wow.
And for 40 years, this guy writes a note in the morning to his investors, like on the state of the market. Or it's like every morning or every week.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So look at you, bro. You're in the company of titans.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what it is it's usually a topic of the day. So if I'm if I've noticed something in our Monday meetings where somebody's talking about, I'm having a hard time with buyers ghosting me, I'll create an email on Tuesday morning about buyers ghosting you and how to overcome it. So how my routine works is I wake up at 4:30, I go down, make water, coffee, vitamins, all that kind of stuff, and then I open my computer and I create, not consume. So my phone is nowhere near me.
Nice.
I do my check-in on my Instagram stories to show the time that I woke up.
Yeah.
It holds me accountable. And then I put it away for at least an hour or two, and I just go to YouTube, and whatever I watch, sometimes it's the first video, sometimes it's the 10th video,
right.
and I just wait until something clicks, and I said, you versus you, the power of one more, being relentless, all of that, boom. And now it's half motivational and half tactical. So I open it up with how that topic relates to me or our team and how we've overcome it, and then actual point by point, because, business people, salespeople for sure, they don't want to read a fucking big email. So I break it down into points. Boom, boom, boom. And then a little conclusion, and I do that every morning.
I feel like that is very inspiring, and I might steal that from you.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
If you're okay. Also, just like the thing that you said about like Instagram check-in, I have a love-hate relationship with social media. Like I want all the benefits, but I'm a very private person naturally.
Oh, dude, I grabbed my phone when I, got diagnosed with blood cancer, and I just came out of anesthesia, and I grabbed my phone and I told everybody, and I didn't even remember. That's how connected I am to my network.
Really? That's goals for a guy like me. By the way, can we just talk about that for a second? This is a recent diagnosis, right? Yeah, for sure. This is a recent diagnosis? Yeah, December
20th, 2023.
Okay, so like not even 2 months.
Right. Yeah. So it's...
scary shit.
Yeah.
How old are you again?
36.
Yeah.
I'll start from the beginning. How about that?
Okay.
So August, I'm working out in my garage. It's hot. I just had a really big workout, and I post a picture of myself on Instagram stories, just like this. And I maybe put skulls over my pupils or something. And a friend of mine, he's like, dude, you're 36. Like, you should not be tired after a workout like this.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, so what do you have in mind? He's like, go talk to my private doctor. My private doctor is in Mississauga. Maybe it's a thyroid, maybe it's hormones, maybe you need some testosterone. I'm like, test, man. All right, let's go. I'm like, I could use some more size and energy. So I go in, and she's like, hey, okay, before we get started, I know why you're here. I know the guy who referred you. You might be looking for some testosterone, thyroid. Before we can do anything, we need to do a blood and like a profile for you, just like any new doctor, right?
For sure.
So I do that. She's like, your platelets are very high, like 600. I'm like, okay, what should they be? She's like, 100? 150?
Yeah.
I said, what does that mean? She's like, you need to go to the store and get aspirin right now. I'm like, what is aspirin? She's like, I know this is going to sound weird because mostly you might only hear about this if you're 70 or 80 years old, but aspirin is a blood thinner. You need to start taking that every day.
Right.
I'm like, what does that mean? And she's like, you're at risk for blood clot and stroke. So I said, what the fuck? So immediately I'm like, vaccine. I knew I shouldn't have fucking took that thing. I didn't want to take that thing, by the way.
Yeah.
I didn't. It's just now they're saying that my son, who just went through 2 years of his development erased because of COVID, he can't go to hockey because I can't bring him into the arena. Anyways, that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, that's a whole other.
Yeah, we don't want to get demonetized here.
No.
But
you might get canceled for vaccine talk.
Well,
actually, not anymore.
Not anymore. People are awake now. But anyways, the point is just because it was so novel, I just wasn't sure. I'm not anti-vax by any means. It's just this was just the way it all unfolded.
The forcedness of it. Like, make a choice and live with it.
So she's like, look, Andrew, I want you to go and get these more tests. So I went in. We took like 12. And they like spiked up to like 700. They're like, something's going on here and you are at risk. I'm like, for what? And she didn't want to tell me. So she's like, go see a hematologist. I had no idea what a hematologist was. Yeah. So I go in and I sit down and she's like...
It's a blood doctor.
It is a blood doctor.
It's a blood doctor.
So she's like, do you know why you're here?
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I've been having some stomach issues. Because I legit had no idea who she was. My doctor also said maybe a risk for blood clot, stroke. And she's like, Andrew, like, we think you might have cancer. I'm like, what? She's like I didn't. I'm like, okay, yeah. She's like, I'm like, what kind? She's like, there could be leukemia, lymphoma, and JAK2. I'm like, I've heard of like maybe 2 of them. And she goes, we're gonna have to do a bone marrow biopsy. I'm like, that sounds painful. She's like, it's very painful.
Like needle
very painful.
Yeah.
They numb the skin, drill into your bone, suck out the bone marrow, and they take a sliver of your bone.
Yeah.
So she does that.
Sounds delightful.
Invites me back in by December 20th to go over the results. And she said, you have JAK2. So Jack 2 is an
Is that like the better of the three?
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's extremely rare. It's at people this young.
Yeah, you're
But what's even
younger
more
than
rare,
I am, dude. Yeah.
what's even more rare, because I started having trouble. It's so funny. It's like, what you focus on expands, and call it the secret, the law of attraction. Once I knew the information, now my body's like feeling it. So we can get into the power of positive thought after this, but I felt like now my gut health is getting a little worse, this and this. So we are still doing many tests, but what we found out was not only do I have a rare case of JAK2, but I have a rare case of JAK2 that's also called polycythemia vera, which only affects people with JAK2, and it affects their intestinals, their gastros.
Okay.
So I got to go for a colonoscopy next week. I got to go for a gastroscopy or whatever the hell you call it, and then I also have to, do consistent.
This is live. Like you're going
this is
to
actively
happen.
happening.
This is going to happen.
Yes, and so I'll just to tell you the vulnerable pieces of it all was that waiting period of not knowing what type of cancer it was insane.
Right.
Because there's been a lot of young people that have lost their lives over the past 12 months. And in the past 3 months, I've seen so many people die on Facebook, GoFundMes, and you're just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
What is going on? And, I'd be working out and just trying to stick to my routine, collapsing to the floor, bawling my eyes out, not being able to listen to music, just going through this I've got 3 boys,
Yeah.
8, 3, and 2.
my
I got a partner at home, and, she's amazing. And she helped me through this time. And, I was, for the last 12 months, 24 months, as my success was growing, I'm like, I can't be doing this. So I was giving, I was passing that recognition off to a higher power. I just didn't really have a relationship with God or any type of religion. In my back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, he's there. It's there. I've got faith. And then within these last few months, it's just been more involved with, reading the Bible, understanding the Bible. I had somebody pray for me, and this is the first time somebody's prayed for me, but asked for specifics. And they said, what are you going through? I need specifics. What is it called? What is this? What is that? What is this? And that night, this is going to be gross, but that night, I went to bed, and I had a dream that I excreted, let's just say. Shit myself.
Yeah.
In the dream, not in real life. And I woke up, and I was just a completely different person. I was a completely different person. I woke up
You had a
with
spiritual
cleanse.
expulsion.
Because I Googled what that meant, and it's just like you've transitioned, you're excreting all the negativity, and you're moving on. So is it a struggle? It's a consistent battle between, positive thoughts and anxiety. But, once I'm struggling with this whole surrender to faith thing, and, but every day is just, a fight within itself. But it's a fight for everybody too, so.
I mean, normally we don't touch faith, to each their own. But
I never did either.
Look, I grew up in an extremely religious household community, and I love it, and I loved it back then. It's a big part of who I am, but I never try to push the agenda on anybody. But it's nice to hear that you're, whatever the higher power it is, that you're surrendering, and that like I wish your goals for me now, right? Like in that one aspect, like you're not just that one aspect, but in that aspect, like sometimes God puts these things in your way to like change course, right? Because like how much positive has come out of that negative news?
A lot.
Right?
Yeah,
like the power of positive thinking. Like we talk about worst cases and like all that, but whatever, but like how much positive has come out of that?
It's made me focus where the important things of each situation lies and how to deal with it.
Right. Well, listen, you got one more person praying for you.
Thank
I'll
you,
tell you
buddy.
that
I appreciate
right now. Okay, last thing before I let you go. Advice to people who see this and want to follow in your footsteps.
I think the biggest piece of advice that I could get is that without understanding with super clarity and intention what your purpose, what your goal, what your why, what that is, you will struggle down the path to success. And I never really understood what that meant, but it can't just be monetary. It can't just be general. It has to be actual measurable results that accumulate into something of purpose, something that, is stemming from a fulfillment. Whereas at the beginning, I didn't know. I just said, okay, I want to do 10 deals this year. Why? What does that mean? What will you do when you achieve that 10? And then breaking it down from there and saying simply, okay, so what is it going to take to actually get to these types of goals? Like, how am I even going to hit this? And once you've actually figured out how, the biggest part is having the discipline to do it, because once that consistency is lost, fuck, man, like we have one life.
Yeah.
Time's ticking. Anything can happen. Taking that day off, to go fucking party or something, when you're on this path to greatness, that can fuck up an entire 6 months.
Right. So you gotta be purposeful with your why. Like it's not just about.
Yeah.
You gotta live it.
You can't be disciplined if you don't understand with clear intention your purpose.
Right. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah.
You were an amazing guest, as I knew you would be.
Thanks, man.
You're always welcome back, and I feel like I've made a new friend today, man.
Yeah, me too, Basil.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Well, that's our episode for today. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Bassam Hannah podcast. To check out this episode and all our previous episodes, you can go to bassamhanna.com. That's BASEMHANNA.com. Or you can check us out on all the major platforms. We're on YouTube, Spotify, and we post them on Instagram and TikTok. Till next time, have a great one.